Hi viewers, and welcome to another episode of On The Farm, where we are vocal about everything local. I am Shakima Hanley. On this episode of On The Farm, we'll be at the Potworks Station, showcasing the peanut production, harvesting process, grading process, right down to the very end. But before we get into it, we'll take a short break and be right back after this.
Fresh local fruit and vegetables produced for our nourishment. Buy local, eat local.
Joining me, I have the Chief Extension Officer, Mr. Steve Reed. Steve, welcome to On The Farm yet another time.
Thank you, dear.
Okay, so today we are here at Potworks, and I'm just going to ask you a bit about how the peanut production was going. What type of crop is peanuts?
Well, peanut is basically in our fields here a 3-month crop, but it can go for 4 months if you include the drying process. But for the green market, we prefer to go with the 3 months variety because it get quicker turnover. We already have limited land space, so the quicker crops come out, the quicker you're putting again. So you'll notice that we have 3 months sweet potato, 3 months. Most of our crops are 3-month cycle.
Okay. In terms of whether it's a leguminous crop or root and tuber, what category would it fit in for persons who might be concerned about that?
Okay, it's a leguminous crop, and that is a crop that the plant would suck nitrogen from the atmosphere and incorporate it into the soil. They call it nitrogen fixing bacteria and so forth in the root node. So normally in developed countries, they would plant leguminous crops to build back the soil after you've been planting for a number of years, and to reduce the use of synthetic fertilizers. They would then plant a leguminous crop, whether nuts or beans, and sometimes they harvest, sometimes they just plow it back into the field. In this case, we are going to harvest because we are just looking for the nitrogen to go back into the soil.
Okay, and how is this planted?
Well, we did a few different planting techniques here. We did some 12 inches apart, some 18, and we normally would put 2 seeds per hole.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that we got a batch of seed. We didn't too sure of the germination. We also baited the area with rat bait before we planted. Okay. But just in case, we didn't get all 2 seeds. So you're sure to get a production from each hole.
Okay, and tell us a little bit of some of the management practices.
Well, basically, we were fortunate this time around in terms that the season is a dry season, so we didn't have as much rainfall, so we had a reduction in weeds. But basically, we would plant, we would give it 1 or 2 weeding. From the nut starting to run off, it suppresses weed from coming up. Okay. So we didn't have much of that to fight with. However, we had to use insecticide to keep away the worms, because once there is green, wherever the butterflies or worms are, they're going to be attracted to this area. So we had to do 1 or 2 application of some environmentally friendly pesticide we spray to them. We could have gone back in the same day after it is dried to continue doing any work we had to do in the field.
For the viewers who are listening, how can one tell if they decide to plant peanuts for themselves? How can they tell when it's ready to harvest, and how do you harvest them?
Okay, well, I'd like to say first, in agriculture, it's very dynamic. There's a rule book, but sometimes the rule book needs to be broken. For example, as I said before, the variety that we planted are 3 months. Okay. However, in this climate, based on the drought conditions, they will come in quicker. If it was in the rainy season, the growth period would be extended. So in this condition, they came in quite early, a contribution of lack of rainfall and the heat. We selected Potworks and New River to plant because of the soil type. Over here is quite sandy. It's a sandy loam, so it's loose compared to most of the clay soils and the other areas of the island. So harvesting, it just is a simple pull and it comes up. Not as easy as those folks in St. Kitts would have it with the sandy soil, but quite easy. If we experience any difficulty, we would then turn on the irrigation just to moist the area so that we don't have much nuts leaving in the soil. And so it's just a hand pulling situation. We will pull a certain amount, leave them on the bed, and then start processing them.
Okay. What are some of the benefits of peanuts?
Well, there's a lot of benefits. Most of us here in Nevis and within the Federation would use peanuts as a snack. All right, but other than a snack, it's high in nutrients, especially protein and fatty acids. That's the good fatty acids.
Yes.
All right, you could make drinks from it. It's you could make peanut butter and a lot of other byproducts. We're watching to see the yields that we get from this, and then we know which direction we are able to go. So for now, we are mostly gearing towards the fresh market, whether it's the patch or boiled nuts. Maybe you'll make some drinks in between. But based on the yields that we get per acre, we will then know forward if we are going to be looking at any processing of the products.
Okay. In terms of the vegetative aspect of it, after harvesting the nuts itself, what would be planned to do with the vegetative aspect of it?
Well, because most of the stuff that we do here there's a holistic picture. All right, it's dry season, and when you're harvesting the nuts, we pick the mature ones off. The nuts that is left are not deformed but not fully matured, but they do have peanuts in it.
Okay.
It's still high in nutrients. So we have lays with the small farm ruminants. That's the stock farm there at Madden's. So they will be utilizing the tops as well as those pods that are not mature to feed the animal, and that will cut back on buying feed, and also like a supplement, because the nuts are so high in protein and so forth. It really will be like a supplement to them.
Overall, you made mention that some were planted here in Potworks and some were planted in the river. Just give us an idea roughly of how much overall of land was cultivated.
Well, I would say around 4 acres roughly, could be a bit more. However, we are planning to go forward. We are planning on planting some more based on, this is the first field we are harvesting, and based on the returns, we now know whether to scale up or down based on how it comes back. We are also looking at the benefits, because this same field that we are harvesting now, we are going to be preparing it to plant onions, and as all Nevisians know, once we produce local onions, they are the best. And we are already planning for our open day next year, March. So after using these peanuts to rebuild the soil, I'm hoping to get a bumper crop of onions out of this without having to spend a lot of money on fertilizer. The peanuts would work itself back in, and I'm documenting everything here so that we know going forward if the technology actually works, if it's significant, if it's a mild fertilizing regime that we'll have to use, or if it's the same or same.
Okay, last question for you, Mr. Reed. I was told some time ago that we would not have planted peanuts for a long period of time. Why did we decide to bring it back this time?
Okay, and a number of factors. One, we know we're in the COVID situation. So most of the supermarkets processing food just to feed the locals. The hotels are down. Restaurants not doing that much because a lot of people still not working and so forth. So we made a decision, hey, let's phase into a crop and leave most of the open market to the farmers. Let them be able to generate that money right now from just the local, because they don't have the big Four Seasons and Nisbets and all these hotels to supply. So by shifting away from our traditional crops that we would have been subsidizing the farmers with, we do a totally different crop that they are not doing, would not have any conflict with them, and leave them to deal mostly with feeding our local population, as food security is of great importance to us. However, with the extension staff going out every week and monitoring what is out there, if by chance they come back in with some information saying, hey, there's a shortage of pumpkin or this or what, then we will step in as a backstop, especially if the farmer doesn't have any more land to plant to have a continuation of that particular crop. Then is when we'll get into planting those crops. But other than that, we'll be focusing on more crops that farmers cannot produce or not feasible for them to produce on smaller acreage. And those are some of the reasons that we looked at when we shift over into planting more peanuts.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me on the farm, and I can say that the future looks bright for peanut production with the department here.
Yes, of course.
Thank you again.
All right.
We'll take a short commercial break and be right back after this. Welcome back, viewers. Joining me, I have Brandon Frederick, who is the estate manager here at Potworks. Brandon, tell the viewers, how was the production for you?
Well, the production for me was, to be honest, very easy, seeing that peanuts as a whole, it basically take care of itself because of the ability the roots have, like they have something called modules that form on the roots that cause the peanuts to extract nitrogen from out the air, so that would help a lot with the vegetative stage. So that was very easy process, but we had applied some fertilizer, but a fertilizer that is more based with phosphorus, because phosphorus helps with root development. And from a plant, not just peanuts but any plant, once you have phosphorus in it, it causes the root base to once a plant have a proper rooting system, is most likely to come out as a success. So
Okay, for the 3 months you have been managing the crop, what are some of the practices that you would have done?
well, mostly we would have normally like burn through the furrows them, make sure that no weeds be coming up on the peanuts them, competing with them. And the workers, I must applaud them, because there was, I mean, it's not easy to weed, especially these long beds. So I salute them highly in terms of dealing with the weeding management of the crop.
So Potworks workers, if you're watching, your boss is super proud of y'all, so kudos to you for a great production.
Normally we would have sprayed with fungicide, because peanuts they're a bit susceptible to fungal disease, so we would have from time to time we would have give them a little preventative spray.
Okay. Was it the first time you handling a crop like this?
Yes.
Since you've been the estate manager?
Yes, this is the first time I ever dealt with peanuts, and with the results I'm a bit pleased.
And congratulations for bringing out a fruitful crop.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Brandon, thank you for joining me on the farm, and do continue to enjoy.
Bless.
Good job. And we'll take a short break and be right back with the wrap up. And there you have it, viewers. Another episode of On the Farm, where we are vocal about everything local. And as to recap, we were here at the Potworks Estate, highlighting the harvesting process of peanuts here. After having been planting it on the island for a while, the department decided to revive it and showcase to the farmers how beneficial this crop is, and also to the viewers. Until next time, I am Shakima Hanley.